And the thing is, a lot of companies, they want to hire women. They want to hire women and they want to train them because let me tell you a little secret. A lot of the times, if we take ourselves seriously, if we're motivated and smart, which most women are, contrary to popular belief, just kidding, then we make better technicians. We make better welders. We make better. And this is something an instructor told me, so I know I'm right. My name is Marie, and I'm from Yakima, Washington, the best town in Washington, of course. And I took automotive and street rod, chassis fabrication, and ASM, so automotive service management.
Okay, perfect. So, what do you think the most challenging thing you did in automotive was?
Probably the transmissions class. They're probably the thing I knew the least about when I joined the school. And so they were kind of a challenge, especially tearing them down. We had to tear them all down, throw all the parts in a box, and then rebuild them. So we didn't know which order they went in. So we that was definitely a challenge for me, but I learned a lot for sure. There's still a little bit of a black magic though.
So, what do you think the most? So, you said, okay, it wasn't live work. That was the hardest thing. What was the hardest thing you think?
Probably my one of my shop finals in drivability diagnostics, which is the second half of EMS. It was a splice, like a short to power, in the data link connector of a Chevy Impala.
Hmm.
So basically, they give you the car, they tell you, diagnose it, tell us what's wrong with it. So you start with pulling codes and everything, but you don't really assume that the problem is going to be in that connector because that's where you pull codes from. So it turned out they had messed that up somehow. But
And
I hope I'm not giving.
that was the comp. The comp was the data link connector was messed up.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
it takes
That's
a
pretty
lot of
tricky.
backtracking and a lot of electrical testing to figure that out because it kind of leads you in the wrong direction. I really hope I'm not giving anything away here. Hopefully they change that. So I brought my truck down. It's a 97 Chevy and I drove it all the way down. So 14, 15-hour trip. It ran and everything. And my plan was to, when I was in a street rod, to get a like a roll bar on it and maybe fix it up a little bit, get it looking nice. But unfortunately, it died on me. So I spent a lot of my life working EMS trying to get it running again. So I had no fuel pressure. So went ahead and diagnosed a fuel pump. The fuel pump I put in didn't work. So we put in another fuel pump, which ended up working, but it still wouldn't start. It would crank, but it wouldn't start. And it had air, it had spark, it had fuel. So I basically did like a whole teardown of the spark system from spark plugs back to the distributor. And when I took the distributor out, I figured out that somehow the gear at the bottom meshes. Yeah, meshes with the camshaft. It had ground itself into the camshaft. So it wasn't turning the distributor. So obviously it wasn't starting. But thank goodness they make the that gear on the bottom, they make it softer than the camshaft. The camshaft wasn't damaged. So I was able to just grab another gear off like a 5.7 Chevy that an instructor gave me and then put that on there and it started.
Which one of those classes do you think was the most fun and why?
Street rod. I really
Street rod.
like the custom paint portion. So they put you in the paint booth for like a week. I think for me it was a week to a week and a half. And you get to make a bunch of custom paint panels. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you because they're back at home, but those were super fun to make. We got to learn a bunch of different techniques, lowrider effects, just how to blend the colors, candy paint, metallic, everything to do with just custom paint, and I really really enjoyed that. Super fun.
You guys do arc welding and MIG welding, or what else do you guys do?
Yes, we do MIG and TIG. We do TIG steel, and we also do TIG aluminum in that class. So that was fun.
How did you pick up TIG aluminum?
It was a little challenging at first. Going from steel to aluminum, it's easier to go from aluminum to steel, to be honest. But because aluminum is a lot harder to weld smoothly. But once you get your settings right on your welder, you can push that pedal pretty well, and it comes out looking a lot prettier than steel welds. Yeah. If you can lay a good bead, because with street rod, it's sheet metal. So you're welding on like 16 gauge, 20 gauge sheet metal. So it's very thin. Whereas in chassis fabrication, obviously it's a lot more structural. So you do tube welding. And for that, it's a lot more heat and it's a little more challenging because for your tube fit comps, you have to learn how to weld around that edge. I wish I had one with me so I could show you. But getting that angle right on the tubes is a lot more difficult to create a pretty weld. So I'd say you learn a lot more about, you know, welding in chassis fab for sure, just because of that aspect. In chassis fab, I made a, honestly, I don't know what it's called. In diesel, they had some kind of comp where they took a part off a semi and they put it on a stand, and they needed another stand for that. So I went ahead and welded them a stand. It kind of looked like a toilet seat with yeah, with two bars on the bottom and then a rack for whichever part it was. So I made one of those, which was pretty fun. And then I helped one of my instructors build a frame for his F100 that he was going to build, which was also very fun.
So you took those classes, automotive, straight rod, chassis, and ASM, and then you go to our career fairs, right? Can you
Yeah.
kind of explain how the career fairs work and how many interviews you did?
So I ended up doing, I think I did 8 interviews at my career fair, which I forget what the limit is, but it's somewhere close to 8 or 10 because you can't take unlimited, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's
But
12. It's 12 in a single day. If you
12,
say
okay.
you want
Yeah.
every single slot and no time off, but
Yeah.
yeah, you can do 12 in a single day. So you did 8. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So what did you end up choosing out of those 8?
I chose Sewell Automotive in Texas.
What does Sewell do?
So Sewell, they own like they call them higher end dealerships. So you got Cadillac, Lexus, basically luxury brands, Lincoln, GMC, Mercedes, and they operate. Is it? It's close to 20 dealerships across Texas.
Dallas. You're all the way from Yakima. How did you
Yeah.
how did you check them out or anything like that?
Yeah, so they were kind enough to, after I graduated, they were kind enough to fly me down and put me up in a hotel. They paid for my expenses, and then I was able to tour the dealership. I interviewed with the service managers, and they also gave me a loan car from the dealership, 2023 Cadillac, so I could, drive around town, look at apartments, figure out my way like around, and see if how I liked it. So, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And so then you saw it. Like, how did it feel once you got there in Dallas versus Yakima? Where you're like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Did you know anybody? Like, how did it feel when you got
Yeah,
there?
it's definitely a lot different from Yakima. Just there's a lot of people. I mean, there's like 8 million people in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex,
Yeah,
which is more than the entire population of Washington. So it's definitely bigger. There's a
yeah.
lot more traffic, but there's also a lot more stuff to do. So
Okay, that's cool.
yeah,
So why didn't you just stay in Yakima?
too expensive.
Yeah.
When I got here, gas is like 240 right now down here. Whereas when I left Yakima, it was like 380 or
Okay.
close to $4. It might have been over $4. But
Okay.
yeah, it's
Gotcha.
definitely a lot cheaper. But I'm hoping I am in connection with a couple welding shops down here that I'm going to start shadowing at
Okay.
so that hopefully I can get into that market a little bit more.
Okay. So you do kind of want to get into
Yep.
fabrication?
Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
on the side or something.
Yeah. Like you get to work? Are you pulling cars in? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. So it depends on, what kind of work there is. A lot of the times my group leader, he'll let me, pull my own cars in. A lot of the times I get to diagnose or just do maintenance items, rotate tires, change oil, pretty much go through all the steps by myself, do multi-point inspections, recommend any additional services, stuff like that. For Cadillacs, a lot of the times it is either noise diagnosis or electrical. So I'm doing a lot of that as well. It's a lot of test driving and pinpointing stuff that's gone wrong. So yeah, so it gives you a $2,000 sign-on bonus when you start. So that really helped me when I got down here. After being at school for so long, I didn't really have any savings left. So that definitely helped me start furnishing my apartment. Get some tools bought and stuff like that. So
How many women would you say go to our school?
it kind of went up and down while I was there because I was there for such a long time. But I think by the time it ended, there were probably close to 50 or 60.
Okay.
When I started, it was a little less than that. Um, My first class I was in had 7 girls in it, which was a high amount,
Yeah.
apparently. Um, there was a couple classes where I was the only girl. Actually, yeah, there was one class where I was the only girl, but other than that, we had usually 2 or 3 in class. And I will say you do have to work harder to be taken seriously. But one of the things you can do to overcome that is make sure to make a good impression. Back in the day, we didn't have the choice. We couldn't
Yeah.
go to trades. We couldn't be welders. We couldn't be technicians. Now
Right.
that we do, and we are able to go to school and we are able to get all that experience, we should be motivated enough and serious enough about it to take it seriously. And the thing is, a lot of companies, they want to hire women. They want to hire women and they want to train them because let me tell you a little secret. A lot of the times, if we take ourselves seriously, if we're motivated and smart, which most women are, contrary to popular belief, just kidding, then we make better technicians, we make better welders, we make better. And this is something an instructor told me, so I know I'm right. But we do, on average, we do better than male counterparts. You definitely have to, it's easy, I would say, to, fall into that kind of mindset where it's like, oh, I'm not as strong, like I can't do as much, especially in automotive where there's a lot of heavy lifting. But it's not all about that, because a lot of people can lift 200 pounds, but can they diagnose an electrical issue? No. So, you can always get stronger, but you can't always get smarter.
If you were to do it all over again, go to WyoTech all over again, would you do anything different? And if so, what is it?
I feel like I would definitely take on those bigger jobs that I was kind of apprehensive about, especially during my first class, which was street rod, because I was just kind of learning the ropes and trying to get into it. I wasn't sure, really sure of my place. And so I kind of missed out on an opportunity on helping on a really cool project. So I would say, if you get that chance and if you get that opportunity or if you want to do it on your own car, don't be like, oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I don't have enough this. Just if you have the means to do it, absolutely do it. Even if you do make mistakes and, maybe it doesn't look like you thought it would or it just doesn't turn out how you hoped, you're going to learn a lot from that, especially if you're taking more of the fabrication courses. So, because you learn a lot more from your mistakes than you do your successes. So, your whole life, like me, like I was born in that town, I grew up in that town, so I never lived outside of it. But you gain a lot more experience being out on your own. You gain a lot more independence. You learn how to do things by yourself, and it's just a good skill set to have. It definitely made me a lot more confident to move down to Texas and get my first job, first real job, that is, just because I already had that experience of, living by myself. So even if you decide you want to go back home or go back to Yakima, go back to wherever you're from, it's a good thing to have learned,
Thank you, Marie.
All
I'll
right.
talk to you
Thank
later.
you.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.